The oceans of the world contain a vast array of marine mammals.
And an amazing variety of seals, sea otters, dolphins, and the most magnificent of all sea life, the whales.
The ideal habitat here makes it a precious and vital ecosystem for these remarkable creatures.
Here we are at the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History in Mission Canyon, and I'm in front of the skeleton of the blue whale that was taken off the beach back in 1980, and a specimen that we flinched down over a 6-week period, and then it took us roughly 2 years to get it prepared to put in position as you see here.
The blue whales are the largest creatures on Earth today, and it is now known that whales in general are the oldest set of marine mammals in existence. Coming from a line of insectivores, they evolved back into the ocean around the time of the demise of the dinosaurs. The reproductive cycle of these majestic creatures is based on a migratory cycle that in blue whales have a gestation period of approximately 1 year. Blues reproduce in equatorial waters where it's warm.
In the northern hemisphere, gray whales migrate 4,000 miles south to bear their young.
The flippers in all whales are similar in structure to that of the human arm. They act as a steerage organ. When held close to their bodies, the whales are propelled forward, swimming at speeds of nearly 25 miles per hour. As they stick out one flipper or the other, they are able to execute a turn because of the resistance of the water against the flipper. The lifespan of the whale is believed to be about 60 or 70 years, slightly shorter than that of humans. There are 6 species of seals and sea lions that live in this area, which makes for a large diversity of these type of pinnipeds in one specific region. 2 of these species are extremely scarce. One is the Guadalupe fur seal, and the other is the northern sea lion. The northern sea lion is the most recent to disappear from the San Miguel Island rookeries, although the reasons are not quite clear. This particular species has declined through its entire range from Alaska all the way down to the coast of Southern California. The elephant seal, which currently thrives in great abundance in this region, have expanded successfully since the end of the fur and oil trade in the late 19th century, when they were thought to be very nearly extinct. They have now recovered from a very small population to easily over 100,000 individuals. Then there's the little harbor seal, which makes its home not only on the islands off the coast, but on the mainland as well.
One of the other marine mammals that lives along the coast is the sea otter. The sea otter is the smallest mammal in the area. They inhabit areas mostly up along the central coast, although occasionally are seen around the Channel Islands. There was a large group some years ago on San Nicolas Island, but none stayed, swimming up through the Santa Barbara Channel. This region historically was a habitat for sea otters. And in time, if allowed to spread naturally, they will recolonize the productive ecosystems around the channel and perhaps around the mainland coast.
One of the largest dolphins along the coast are the killer whales. They are a top-level predator with a large home range, and they need a lot of space to feed on the fish and mammals that make up their diet. They are a very striking and identifiable creature with their beautiful black and white patterns and the large dorsal fin on the males. The great diversity of sea mammals that exist in this region is conducive to such a large number of these giant predators. There are tens of thousands of seals along the California coast, and in some years great runs of salmon. It is an ideal habitat to support such top-level predators as these. There are over 30 species of whales, dolphins, and porpoises along the California coast, and at any given time, there is at least one here in terrific abundance.
Dolphins are highly communicative. They use sound as communication, but also as sonar to find food. There's a lot of interaction with dolphins, sometimes exhibiting dominant behavior. It is not uncommon to see one dolphin riding in the wake of a boat and have another come up and nip it and take its place.
Common dolphins are split into two species. There is a pod here that coalesces into perhaps 2,000 animals, and they are really spectacular to see. These dolphins, over a 24-hour period, break into smaller herds, then coalesce into larger groups of thousands. They are very gregarious and social creature. Their survival is indicative to their herd formation. There is strength in numbers. Unlike the big baleen whales, who either travel alone or in groups of 2 or 3, they don't have the attachment of dolphins.
They are truly exciting creatures to watch.
If you were to look at these aquatic sea mammal brains, dolphin particularly, because it's the one I'm most familiar with, as a neuroscientist, when I first saw a physical model of a dolphin brain, I was blown away. And the reason I was blown away is the complexity of the structure that these mammals house is every bit as complex as the human nervous system. When I look at the great ape brains, they pale in comparison. There's a quantum leap, almost the difference between, or it's equivalent to the difference between human and chimp and dolphin and chimp. Human are on par with their complex neural structures. They have the hardware to be where we are intellectually. They have the social behavior that is every bit as complex as human behavior, to the limits of that their environment allows. They're probably one of the only animals that leaves its natural environment to come check out humans. When dolphins in the wild will come on over in a sense of curiosity. You're not just there with them, they come and seek out. They have this level of curiosity. And they also have an attention deficit. They're bored very easily. And it's like, come on, human, do something, you know. It's a very interesting kind of phenomenon. And if you just look at each one of these points in itself is potentially trivial. But when you start putting out all of these points into this map, you say, gee, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that look a lot like our puzzle, the human puzzle. Not all of it's the same, but there's fundamental key parts that are the same. if you've had orthopedic surgery, which means on your bones, and someone has put like screws in your bones to keep your bones straight, and then you go swimming with dolphins, the dolphins will come up to you if you're in that kind of an environment, and if they choose to get in that interaction, they'll come up and they're scanning you with their ultrasound, and they'll find this anomaly, this piece of metal in this human thing, and they'll call the other dolphins over and kind of with their rostrum say, hey, look at this. We've seen this with people that have shrapnel from war wounds, is that they'll actually be able to identify the deep tissue. There again, now there is anecdotal evidence that dolphins have correctly identified people that have tumors that were undiagnosed, and they spent a lot of time and a lot of attention focusing in on that tumored area. And then later on during the scans, the medical scans, that tumor was discovered. And this has happened more than just a couple times. I mean, once or twice, okay, it's a coincidence and people get into magical thinking and everything else, but the interesting thing about this dolphin intelligence and it almost altruistic concern for the human. Another example that leads me to that statement is that it is fairly well known amongst the dolphin-assisted therapy crowd that when you put a group of children in the water with these dolphins, and there's like this random free swim, the dolphins will identify with and focus in on the child that is disabled.
Our oceans tell us the condition of the earth. They play an essential role in the web of life.
The sea mammals are the metaphysical spirits of the sea. Mythical with their strange sounds. Humpback whales at birth weigh close to 8,000 pounds, with a length of over 12 feet. Mother's high fat content milk allows the calf to grow an amazing There's so much excitement when we humans make contact with these extraordinary beings.
Beautiful shot of that pectoral fin. The humpbacks, of course, their fins, as you can well see, look more like wings.
All of these mammals are making a comeback from near extinction. Yet, some like the humpback whales, 15,000 worldwide, and the blue whales with less than 10,000 worldwide, still have a ways to go. These blue whales recently are making their presence known off the California coast. They can reach the phenomenal size of 110 feet long, weighing in at 170 tons, swimming at speeds up to 25 miles an hour. They are very elusive. Blue whales are the loudest creature on Earth. They make sounds at 180 decibels, louder than a jet engine. At deep ocean depths, they can communicate globally.
I've been whale watching here in Santa Barbara since 1973. Started off originally watching the California gray whales as they were moving up the coast, and we were very excited in those early years because the number of animals in the herd had come up to about 8,000 animals. It was quite an increase from just a few hundred animals in the 40s, and so we were all very excited that it looked like the gray whale was going to survive as a species. Well, now, 1996, we have almost 25,000 California gray whales, so it's really a tremendous increase. And with this increase in the number of animals has been a lot of increase in public awareness, not only of the gray whale, although I think the gray whale is the one that
triggered this whole thing, but now of the humpback and the blue whales. And as these animals are starting to move back into the California waters here, particularly here in the Santa Barbara Channel, there's a lot of public enthusiasm and interest in these beautiful animals. And for very good reason, because the humpback and the blue whales are the most exciting animals in the ocean to me. The humpback because they're so friendly. I mean, they often will come right up to the boat. Last summer, in every single day, it was calm. We could predict it. If we had calm seas, we knew we were going to get friendly approaches by humpbacks, and we got them every single day where they'd come up and hang around the boat. It was really remarkable. The blue whales, they have their own aura about them. They have this presence, this sense that you can feel, and it's palpable when you get into the presence of these animals. They're huge. I mean, not only are they the largest animal that's ever been on the face of the earth, but they are incredibly beautiful, and now, in the last couple of years, they're beginning to show us friendly behavior also, like the humpbacks do, coming right up to the boat and hanging around sometimes for hours at a time. You know, when you start talking about the blue whale and the immensity of this animal, you know, they can attain lengths of almost 100 feet. They can attain weights of 150 tons. They have a tongue that's bigger than the largest animal on land. The biggest land animal is the African elephant, weighs about 6 tons or so. Well, the tongue of the blue whale is larger than an African elephant. They are absolutely immense animals. And yet these big animals will come up and give friendly approaches to boat loads full of people, and it's the people that they're there responding to.
The recent increase in interest in sea mammals has extended their popularity beyond what is normal traditional marine biology and behavioral studies. Phenomena has been reported consistently in the past 10 to 15 years of actual events where people have their state of health has been impacted by an interaction with dolphins. This raises quite a bit of questions. Is this a placebo effect, or is there some biological mechanism that can account for this phenomena? There is a phenomena, and it's been reported by anecdotal studies, and that's a nice scientific way of saying they really weren't very objective in the studies and the evaluations. Some key examples of where this human-dolphin interaction has come into play has been with Down syndrome children and autistic children. And actually looking at the state of health of the autistic and Down syndrome children after they interact with dolphins. What we find is that autistic children seem to, if you read the reports, they seem to vocalize at a greater frequency, more words per time. Down syndrome children, their learning performance increases after this dolphin-assisted therapy. Now, the ranges on how this is happening is quite varied. At one very extreme end, you have a group of individuals that believe that this is supernatural psychic phenomena from being channeled through other dimensions via the dolphins. Okay, that's like one post. The other post says nothing is happening at all, it's all in your mind. And the real good middle ground says that we really need to study the environment around the human-dolphin interaction while it's occurring. Listen to sound with hydrophones and try to find out if we can find some possible mechanisms that can account for this phenomena. A group called Aquathought was formed by a guy named Dave Cole. And what he wanted to do was, he's one of a group of what we call ourselves neurohackers. We're people that are looking at the human nervous system and looking at information technology and looking for ways to intelligently link the two. And I don't mean implanting probes deep in your skin or something, but there's ways to couple these together. And he got interested in the physiologic evaluation of Down syndrome children after their swim with dolphins, specifically to look at their change in brainwave activity from the pre-swim to the post-swim state. And it was really, even though it was by some measures a trivial study, I mean, it wasn't very complex, it was the first in a series of experiments designed to actually define and to identify and then define and parameterize what is the physiologic response, what is actually happening in the body. We're watching their changes in performance. We're watching these kids learn better, we're watching them speak better, we're seeing people with chronic back pain reduce their medication requirements. We're seeing all this phenomena. So we see it. We know it exists, it's consistent, it persists. But what we don't understand as physicians and scientists is how could this possibly be happening? And there's two reasons to ask that question. One is to understand the basic science. How could this possibly be working? Is there some sort of electromagnetic field or energy field being transferred between one to the other? And it turns out that there is something along those lines. The dolphins actually emit high frequency sounds. They create this sound in such a way that it creates a spatial sound reflection. They're not just beaming out point sources of space, they're actually sculpting patterns in the water. If you were to measure the energy, you'd see shapes in their sound propagation. So that's pretty interesting, because when you're in the water as a human, you're nothing but a dense bag of seawater, and they can see right through you. Dolphins basically are ultrasound engines. They see right through. They perceive. Seeing is a wrong term. It's not with their eyes. It is an aural, A-U-R-A-L, which means hearing phenomena that actually they perceive their environment. They're in a sound space, as we as humans are normally in a visual space. So there's this sound energy emission that turns out has enough energy to alter physiologic properties within human tissue. So we have, for the first time, a possible mechanism to explain how there is the transmission of energy in a reliable way between one animal, the dolphin, and another animal, the human.
You know, this explosive discharge of air that these animals make as they exhale, the thing that makes the blow that you can see, is really remarkable. That air will come out of there at sometimes 300 miles an hour. It makes a blow in the large animals you can see from several miles away.
Condor is a 88-foot steel vessel. We take passengers for hire out into the channel to do whale watching, different sorts of trips. Excellent place to run and operate. Quite an assortment of animals that we have here. One of the largest diversities of cetaceans anywhere in the world. Here in the Santa Barbara Channel. It's a real dynamic area. Christmas just around the corner, and it's always kind of an exciting time for everybody, but for us here in Santa Barbara in particular, it usually denotes the arrival of the first southbound gray whales as they make their way south down to Baja. The trips for us begin the day after Christmas, because that's usually about the time that we start to see them as they make their way south. Real interesting area through here, because we get the gray whales in the channel both southbound and then again as they make their way back up north again in the early spring months. So the trips for those begin fairly soon. Population on the California gray whales has climbed real steadily here over the last 40 or 50 years, ever since they've received protection from commercial whaling. It was estimated that their population numbers were down to probably anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 animals. Today, however, they've been just recently removed from the endangered species list. Now their numbers are back up to historical highs, somewhere around 24 to 25,000 animals in the California herd. The population continues to grow, probably on an average about 6% when you take in calf growth rate and natural deaths and deaths due to man-made pollutions and problems that are still occurring. Do a variety of different types of trips on the Condor. One of our more popular are the island trips, of course. The Condor is a large boat and makes it well out into the channel. It's a comfortable riding vessel, so we can explore all the different areas of the channel. Amazing place, too, at the Channel Islands, particularly San Miguel, the farthest west in the chain. By the time you reach that area, you're out into a completely different area of the ocean. A lot of different currents occur, and meet out in that area. And it brings a lot of food and different animals from the north down to these waters and different animals from the south up into these waters. And it's kind of a meeting point. We have as many as 5 different pinnipeds that actually rook on San Miguel Island. It's one of the largest pinniped rooking areas for California sea lions, the large elephant seals, what's left of the world's population of Guadalupe fur seals. We also get northern fur seals and stellar sea lions that occur out there in huge numbers. Sometimes the beaches are literally covered. They look like a fur carpeting out there.
The northern elephant seal is continually expanding its range. At one time, all of northern elephant seals were found on just a couple of beaches out at San Miguel Island around Point Bennett and Tyler Bight. And now they've expanded their range in the wintertime to where they're not only on those beaches at Point Bennett and Tyler Bight, but they're all along all those southern pocket beaches on San Miguel. They've extended on over onto Santa Rosa Island, and they've filled in on those beaches, some of them in Kyler Harbor. And now they're increasing their range on the mainland, all the way from Ano Nuevo, all the way south to almost down to San Simeon now. There are pocket beaches that hold northern elephant seals.
We had an encounter yesterday with a large group of common dolphins, probably several hundred, maybe 300 or 400, coming over and bow riding on the wake of the boat. And they were obviously feeding, working bait out in the channel.
The other day we had several Delph porpoises come over and ride the bow wave. Kind of unusual for this species. On occasion, we also have killer whales visit in the channel.
One of the most amazing things about whale watching trips is the opportunity to see whales in their natural habitat. Recently, blue and humpback whales have come here to feed on the rich patches of krill, which explode onto the ocean surface during the summer months. These blue whales are enormous. The largest ever recorded was 112 feet long, weighing over 400,000 pounds. To watch an animal of this size feed in the fashion that they do is nothing but extraordinary. How they do this is by opening their colossal 40-foot jaws. Their throat expands outward. When the whale lunges forward and takes in nearly 80,000 gallons of seawater and several thousand pounds of krill. With their strong tongue and throat muscles, they are able to push out the seawater, leaving the krill, which is then swallowed. Krill are tiny crustaceans. It takes approximately 220 of these creatures to make up an ounce. These whales consume up to 7,000 pounds of krill a day. These whales are baleen whales, which means they are equipped with baleen plates, which are broom-like rows of filters, a very efficient form of feeding for these gigantic marine mammals.
On quite a few of our trips, the passengers on board are treated to probably what is one of life's most exceptional occurrences, a close encounter with one of these amazing animals, a large blue whale or humpback whale that will literally swim right over to the boat, swimming just several feet off the side of the boat. And it seems that they definitely are making some type of a contact, whether it's just a curiosity in the boat, which is most likely, or what. The reason has not been established yet, but the outcome is still the same. These incredibly huge animals swimming just several feet off the boat, completely visible. Among the other behaviors that we'll see is a type of a maneuver that the whales do is called a spy hop, where they'll actually just bring a portion of their body up out of the water and then sink back down in. Not quite a full breach, but not really quite sure why they do it, but it appears to be that they're trying to take a look at what's above the surface around them. We'll have the whales literally several feet off the side of the boat sometimes, and they'll come up. It looks like they're trying to get an eye on what's on the boat. When they're that close, when they're really coming up and interacting with the boat, you can feel a connection, kind of a presence. These whales exude a power, if you will. It might be a little bit far-fetched, but you can actually feel it. And I've talked to hundreds of people that have a similar experience. The animals really do create a feeling when you're around them.
The world-renowned Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History plays a vital role in the community in that they are providing a constant update on the condition of the marine life in the region. Because of the 1969 Santa Barbara oil spill, there was a lot of speculation regarding the marine life following that oil spill. The museum's scientific staff was able to verify a lot of those speculations.
We've seen a dramatic increase in the amount of sea life that's off our California coasts. And that sea life ranges from the small things that are in tide pools to at the sandy bottoms near ocean outfalls, all the way up to what people will see most of, like whales and dolphins and sea lions. And it's kind of exciting to see that whole range of animals coming back. It's really hard to make a direct correlation between more sea mammals and less pollution, but we can see the effects on the smaller, lower animals. So we think that there may be a direct correlation to the marine mammals that are swimming out here in the bay. It's kind of exciting as well that all these pollution regulations and things like that have paid off, and that more people are coming back to the bay, and they come back to see these animals. They go out on whale watching trips. They can even see them from the shore. And it gives people a better connection to the bay and to our coastal waters, rather than just thinking, oh, well, that's a dead bay, I'm not going to go swimming out there, or I'm not even going to bother fishing. It's amazing the kind of recovery that can happen in an ecosystem when you quit polluting it and work on cleaning those pollution sources up, like sewage treatment plants and stormwater, which is our largest source of pollution to the near shore. People need to realize that everything that's on our street goes directly to the ocean without any treatment whatsoever. Gilda Bay has worked hard to fight pollution from sewage treatment plants, from industrial sources, and from stormwater. And we need your help as well. We need your help so that you realize what's on your street goes directly to the ocean without any treatment whatsoever.
There are people who have devoted their lives to protecting this coastal environment.
The Oak Group is, I would say, in the word that was used on a review, it's organic. Our first show was called Endangered Landscapes, and we had it up at the Natural History Museum outside of the Bird Hall, Habitat Hall. We quickly moved and got the Faulkner Gallery show, and the 10th year celebration of the group indicated that we've turned over $120,000 in 10 years to different groups that are interested in preserving the land and keeping the development down and honoring our habitat, which is the ecology.
After the 1969 oil spill, a lot of groups formed in Santa Barbara to address environmental issues and to better protect our coast from environmentally damaging projects like offshore oil development. The Environmental Defense Center was formed to represent all of those groups in legal battles and to provide a say in court or before public agencies on those types of issues. We've worked on issues involving protection of whales from offshore seismic survey projects, We've worked on projects to protect air quality concerns from offshore oil development and to protect the coastline and beach access from the risks of oil spills and other types of impacts from development.
Well, the Chumash people are the keepers of the Western Gate. And in many of our stories, from my understanding, is that when the spirits of the ancestors, when people die, and that the spirits go to the west where the sun sets. So we're the last, especially on this continent, so we're the keepers of this Western Gate. And this Western Gate is blessed or bordered by the ocean. The ocean is so essential. People are formed by their environment, and for Chumash people, being people of the coastland and those miles of ocean, they shaped who we are. They shaped our spirituality, our ceremonies. The ocean is so essential as far as our sense of cultural identity. Without the ocean shaping us and how we think, how we view the world, the importance of the creatures that come, our relatives who live in the ocean, our sense of self and cultural identity wouldn't be the same. Because of the ocean, that's how we know who we are. Our canoes are plank canoes, and they're called the tamols. And there was a society of people who belonged to the Society of the Tamol. And it was a whole philosophy, a way. It wasn't just learning how to canoe and how to paddle the tamols or the teats, but a way of living where you had to have knowledge of the ocean. You had to be, it's a very contemplative kind of society because you're out there on the ocean. Maybe you're singing the songs and you're paddling across the ocean there. And you have to go with the currents. The ocean informs you of who you are, how the tamol or the teat should go. And so there is this interaction between you and the ocean and the tamol and the paddling, and it is something really very, very powerful. And you know the currents of the ocean, you know where it will take you. So the ocean is essential to us, not only for our sense of self, but our total worldview. It's a holy underworld. It is, and unless you're out there, paddling in the tamols or going from the islands, as they did in the old days, from the islands to the mainland, and trading down here with the Tongva people, and learning from one another. It was a large trade route that went all up and down the coast, and so these people who belonged to the Tamol societies and the Teat societies, they knew the ocean. They understood things. So they were very respected people because they did know the ocean in a more intimate way than people who just lived along the coastline. Chumash people lived on the islands off the coast of California for thousands and thousands of years. And there was a time, though, that it became very crowded, according to our stories. And Kakunupmawa, the sun, the great mystery, thought it was time for the people to move to the mainland. And so a bridge was formed from the big island of Lemieux all the way to the mainland. And the people began the long walk across to the mainland. And they were told not to look down or they would get dizzy and fall. But some of them fell, and they fell down into the deep. And they tried to come up and breathe, but they could not, and they began to sink down into the ocean. And Hutash, the earth, had compassion on the people and called to Kakunupmawa to save his people. And those people that were drowning down beneath the water and the darkness enfolding them, the people's bodies began to change. Their bodies began to change and become sleek and smooth, and they turned into the dolphins. And we tell this story to this day to remind us that the dolphins are our relatives. They are our close family. I love to tell this story because it reminds us of how important the dolphins are, that they were once Chumash people. since we are so connected to all living things and how essential the ocean is, it's so important that we respect that we respect the ocean, that we respect the creatures living there, that we respect ourselves and the earth by protecting it from pollution. I believe that our young people are beginning to understand this. And maybe if we listen to our young, who seem to be knowing a little bit more about this than the adults do, the wisdom of the children, the wisdom of the elders, if we listen to them, maybe we can all, find a way to be more aware and more respectful of our environment.
What we're looking at here is the potential for meaningful interspecies communication. One of the benefits is that when you start considering that the aquatic mammals, the sea mammals, actually may have conscious interactions with each other, as similar as we do with humans, you learn to be a little bit more sensitive to the environment. It is generally a fact that people that are pro-dolphin research are also ecologically sensitive to a higher degree than the average population. There are also people that are looking at wellness, at actually maintaining states of good health as opposed to curative medicine. The potential benefits of taking seriously the research in human-dolphin interaction leads to a greater sensitivity and awareness of understanding our ecology, our culture. It also focuses us in applying sound thinking methods with things that are on the boundary of believable to mainstream Western scientific minds. It is a phenomena that if we do not, whatever the outcome of the research, I mean, it may turn out that this is a placebo effect and we can document it and that's fine. But it may also turn out that there is something positive here, and that if we don't spend quality mind time evaluating this problem, that we will have been very negligent to our children.
Many Californians living in and around Malibu really believe that it is a way of life. We believe it is a vital coastline which should be preserved. The people of Malibu have recently mobilized to protect this fragile ecosystem by introducing a legislative bill which would establish a marine sanctuary of the entire 27-mile Malibu coastline. It's been an uphill battle for an idea which has been a long time coming. With steadfast commitment, it may become a reality this year.
Man and his industrial pollutions are an enormous threat to all life forms. Stricter environmental laws must be enforced locally and globally for these mammals to continue to exist.
There's still so many things we don't know about these incredible marine mammals.
This magnificent ecosystem must be preserved from man's constant infringement and for the enjoyment of generations to come.
There are many organizations you can join to do just that, like Santa Barbara Environmental Defense Center.
Malibu Save Our Coast, Heal the Bay, just to name a few.
See you at the beach.
See you at the beach.
Want to go for a walk?
Yeah.
1,000 miles south to bear their young.
The flippers in all whales are similar in structure to that of the human arm. They act as a steerage organ. When held close to their bodies, the whales are propelled forward, swimming at speeds of nearly 25 miles per hour. As they stick out one flipper or the other, they are able to execute a turn because of the resistance of the water against the flipper. The lifespan of the whale is believed to be about 60 or 70 years, slightly shorter than that of humans. There are 6 species of seals and sea lions that live in this area, which makes for a large diversity of these type of pinnipeds in one specific region. 2 of these species are extremely scarce. One is the Guadalupe fur seal, and the other is the northern sea lion. The northern sea lion is the most recent to disappear from the San Miguel Island rookeries, although the reasons are not quite clear. This particular species has declined through its entire range from Alaska all the way down to the coast of Southern California. One of the largest dolphins along the coast are the killer whales. They are a top-level predator with a large home range, and they need a lot of space to feed on the fish and mammals that make up their diet. They are a very striking and identifiable creature with their beautiful black and white patterns and the large dorsal fin on the males. The great diversity of sea mammals that exist in this region is conducive to such a large number of these giant predators. There are tens of thousands of seals along the California coast, and in some years great runs of salmon. It is an ideal habitat to support such top-level predators as these. There are over 30 species of whales, dolphins, and porpoises along the California coast, and at any given time, there is at least one here in terrific abundance.
Dolphins are highly communicative. They use sound as communication, but also as sonar to find food. There's a lot of interaction.
The ideal habitat here makes it a precious and vital ecosystem for these remarkable creatures.
Here we are at the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History in Mission Canyon, and I'm in front of the skeleton of the blue whale that was taken off the beach back in 1980, and a specimen that we flinched down over a 6-week period, and then it took us roughly 2 years to get it prepared to put in position as you see here.
The blue whales are the largest creatures on Earth today, and it is now known that whales in general are the oldest set of marine mammals in existence. Coming from a line of insectivores, they evolved back into the ocean around the time of the demise of the dinosaurs. The reproductive cycle of these majestic creatures is based on a migratory cycle that in blue whales have a gestation period of approximately 1 year. Blues reproduce in equatorial waters where it's warm.
In the northern hemisphere, gray whales migrate 4
The oceans of the world contain a vast array of marine mammals.
And an amazing variety of seals, sea otters, dolphins, and the most magnificent of all sea life, the whales.
The elephant seal, which currently thrives in great abundance in this region, have expanded successfully since the end of the fur and oil trade in the late 19th century, when they were thought to be very nearly extinct. They have now recovered from a very small population to easily over 100,000 individuals. Then there's the little harbor seal, which makes its home not only on the islands off the coast, but on the mainland as well.
One of the other marine mammals that lives along the coast is the sea otter. The sea otter is the smallest mammal in the area. They inhabit areas mostly up along the central coast, although occasionally are seen around the Channel Islands. There was a large group some years ago on San Nicolas Island, but none stayed, swimming up through the Santa Barbara Channel. This region historically was a habitat for sea otters, and in time, if allowed to spread naturally, they will recolonize the productive ecosystems around the channel and perhaps around the mainland coast.